Well, welcome everybody. I am Sheree.
I'm Chris.
And we're Technomadia.
That's Kiki over there.
Kiki will probably be jumping in our laps really soon here. We enjoy doing these video chats every so often just because it's fun and it's a great way to share an aspect of our lifestyle and maybe answer some questions. That's the cat Kiki walking by. We usually just do a general Q&A session, but this morning our friends Pace and Kylie, who I think might be joining in on the chat screen with us here shortly, they made a post this morning about why they're selling their RV and quitting the nomadic lifestyle. And a lot of the points they made are, I think, would be great talking points.
They learned a lot of lessons in a very short period of time. They're new RVers. They hit the road October?
October or November.
October.
They started their planning in August. July, I think, is when they first contacted us. Took a couple months to get everything in place. And so we often get contacted by people that are just starting to hit the road, and there's a lot of dreaming that goes on. And unless you're ready to really embrace what the realities are, you can have some unexpected disappointments that come up. So we're going to talk a little bit. We've got some of the talking points. We're going to be using some of the things that Pace and Kylie brought up in their post. And we're going to talk about some of our perspectives on it and things like that. And then at the end of our talk, we do welcome you to post your questions.
And just start posting your questions throughout. Because
it's too hard for me to read them.
Oh, okay. Okay, start thinking of your questions. Maybe even raise your hand, say, I'll have a question later, just so we get a sense of what's going on. Feel free to chime in on the chat. But, yeah. And what was the link for where to go get the show notes?
So we the link is in your chat box. If you're not looking at the chat box in the upper right-hand corner of Ustream, there is a box with a little tab on it where next where it says video, where you can click chat, and that'll open up the chat box.
And on the YouTube version, we'll put this down on the YouTube comments down at the bottom if we record this and put this on YouTube as well.
Right. So I've got the link already posted there, but it's if you go to our website, technomadia.com and /chat notes, and there is a link right now on the sidebar to it. There will be links to a lot of the content that we'll be referencing this evening, including the post that we mentioned about Pace and Kylie's post, so you can go read theirs. And we don't want this to be everything that went wrong. We're not calling them out on that, but we are trying to just give people some perspective on what the realities are out here on the road and some of the challenges and maybe some suggestions to set expectations.
It's not all beautiful sunsets and tranquil beaches and magic income coming in from blogging and all the other things that sometimes people fantasize about when they were planning to hit the road.
So very often we'll have people come to us and they have these big dreams. They'll say something like, and I wrote this quote because I think we've gotten this email 40 times so far over the years. It basically says, I'm going to get rid of my house. I'm going to buy an RV and travel full time. I'll see amazing places, meet amazing people, and visit all my friends and family that I haven't seen in years. RVs are pretty cheap, and I can stay for free or cheap at many places, so I can save tons of money while I figure out how to build my online business. Bring on the adventures. Now, all of that stuff
can be true.
Can be true. It can be done, but it does take a lot of planning and a lot of getting your ducks in a row to be able to achieve some of those realities.
And a lot of understanding the trade-offs and balancing them and figuring out what actually really, really matters.
Right. The reality is that when you're going from a stationary lifestyle to a mobile one, there are a lot of adjustments that you're going to be making. You're probably going to be shaking up your career in some way, maybe even starting a new business, which is its own life challenge of itself. You're going to be getting rid of a lot of your stuff. You're going to be changing your communities.
Mm-hmm. You'll be learning and learning and learning, particularly if you're diving into the deep end and you haven't done anything like live on the road before. For a while, that kind of becomes your full-time job of just figuring out the basics. If you're trying to do that and also figure out an entirely new business at the same time that you're trying to start from zero scratch, and who knows how much other stuff you're piled on top of yourself, that's too much.
Right, and you add on top of that, you've got all this excitement built up about all the places you're going to go see, all the people you're going to go see, and you're trying to drive these long days and go stop at every national park or state parks along the way, or all these amazing places that you've seen us RVing bloggers post about, and you're trying to get there. You want to go see it all, and you've got all this excitement, And before you know it, you are burnt out.
And you've given yourself 4 days to get across the country, and you think you'll see everything from here to there on the way.
Oh, heck, you give yourself 4 weeks to get across the country. You still can't do
rushed.
it. So the first topic, and if you go look at Pace and Kylie's post, they talked a lot about the costs, where they thought it was going to be cheaper than living in their rental house that they had before they left Austin. And it can be cheaper than living. It can be a lot cheaper than living in a sticks and bricks house or stationary living, if you approach it in ways that make it cheaper. So I'm going to start out. I'm a fan of Robert Heinlein, and one of his books, I think it was Moon is a Harsh Mistress, one of the famous quotes is, "There's no such thing as a free lunch." And a lot of times what we hear is people, they read on the blogs, they read on the forums about people boondocking and living for free off the land, on the public lands, or boondocking on Walmart, in Walmart lots and Lowe's lots and Cracker Barrels and living cheap and free. And it is possible. It is totally possible to reduce your expenses on the road by living off the grid or living sustainably that way.
Yeah.
But here's the but. You want to tell them the but?
Well. The but is just the trade-offs. There's often a reason that a place that you can camp is free. It's either a Walmart parking lot and not necessarily someplace you could stay for more than just a night at a time. So it's great for passing through. Or B, it is way out in the middle of nowhere. And which is absolutely awesome if you're trying to be out in the middle of nowhere. But if you're craving, wanting to be near the main tourist attraction or in the downtown or near coffee shops and shopping or walking distance to restaurants, and you want to be able to stay there for more than just 1 or 2 nights of stealth camping on a side street, you want to be able to spread out your awnings and your furniture and get comfortable and stay for 2 or 3 weeks, you've got to decide the trade-offs, and you're not going to get that for free very often.
Right. So there's several ways that people reference while they're staying places for free. The first is they're staying on public lands like national forest, BLM lands, and places like that. These are our lands that we as taxpayers do own. We have a total right to be there, especially in the designated boondocking areas. However, to be there are some investments that you have to make up front to make it sustainable. Number one is you need to have an energy source. If you're running lights, computers, microwaves, hair dryers, ovens, or things like that, you have to have energy independence. That might involve running a generator, which does cost money. It costs money to run a generator because it costs fuel.
Right.
There's solar power.
But solar power is never going to run your air conditioner.
You cannot put enough solar on most ACs on most roofs that you're going to be able to run an air conditioner. So you're going to be limited to
temperate places.
Being in temperate places if you're going to be living there off grid. There's also, yes, correct. There is BLM lands and national forest lands. There's also a restriction. Most of them only allow you to stay in one location for up to 14 days. So you have to be planning to be moving along. They are not an invitation to go live there forever for free.
Right.
These are meant for temporary stays.
There are places that have designated seasonal camping, like Quartzsite is the notoriously famous one, where for $100 and something a seasonal fee you can stay for months and months and months on end. But you still need to figure out, okay, how am I going to dump my tanks? Because you're not going to make your tanks last that long. So you've got all these. Where are you going to get fresh water? Mm-hmm. So there's all of these things, and to have a truly energy independent RV, there is some initial investment that you have to make into solar. Maybe it's wind power if you decide to go that route. An ample battery bank. So it's not just you're just going to drive out into the middle of nowhere and live for free for 14 days at a time. Right. There are. You got to think it through, and then decide is worth the trade-offs. And there'll become times that you'll think that paying $10 or $20 or $30 or even $50 a night for hookups after dealing with no hookups is a bargain. You'll be happy to go pull in someplace where you can take really long showers, charge up your batteries, dump your tanks, fill up all your water.
And when you're not happy to go hunt down potentially unmaintained roads to go and find a spot where you can legally boondock, where you're not infringing upon water because you can't park within a certain distance of different water areas. You have to be so far off of main roads. There's things you do have to learn and be aware of when you go out and try to boondock on public lands.
Can be done.
It can be done
very, very well.
And there are many people successfully doing this and integrating in boondocking on public lands very regularly into the RV camping. But just be sure you go back and read how they set up their rigs to do this and the challenges that they have along with it.
A lot of people, when they're first starting off, think it's going to be simple and easy, and don't realize the headaches that comes with it.
And the other part, did we mention that mostly you're only going to have these public lands where you can boondock for free west? Once you get east, they're still there.
Yeah,
they're still there. They're just not as prevalent. Go look at a BLM or a National Public Lands map.
Those the free camping sites that tend to have them listed, and
there's lots of resources, but you'll notice the further east you go, the less of them are. So if you're wanting, like we hear often people say, I'm going to go boondock all over Florida. Oh, yeah, have fun with that.
The places that you can boondock in Florida are very, very far away from the places that you generally want to be in Florida, unless you're looking to be remote in a swamp.
Yes.
Can be done.
Yes.
But
so another free way or cheap way to stay off grid is what's called stealth or street camping. This is when you're parking in streets that may or may not be questionable if you can actually be there and sleeping in an RV. Some of them, there's questions over that. But the point of this is you have to be stealth. So there's no leaving your windows open. There's no putting out the awnings or the stabilizers. You need to have your windows shut at night. You need to be very careful about what lights you have on, what motion you're making inside your RV, so that you're not like squeaking your springs on the outside, so people don't hear you.
Right.
So yes, stealth and street camping is possible. We've done some of it.
I started off with the tab. Nobody would ever assume that somebody would actually be sleeping inside something that small. So I got away with camping in downtown San Francisco, and my very first date with Cherie I took her stealth camping on Treasure Island. And you can do wonderful things stealth camping, but the bigger your rig, the harder it is to pull off stealth camping. And the longer you want to stay someplace, it just becomes, you got to put more and more effort into being effectively stealthy.
Okay, another free way that people reference for doing it is what's called blacktop boondocking, and that's staying in rest areas, Walmart parking lots, Cracker Barrels, Lowe's, any other number of places where you can overnight in someone's parking lot with their permission. However, this is generally only going to be good for a night, maybe two if you're pushing it, at a time. They're great when you're in transition, when you're just making miles, where you don't need hookups overnight, you've got enough energy independence to sleep for the night. That's great. But unless you're spending the fuel to be transitioning full time, which is going to be pricey, you're probably not going to be living from Walmart parking lot to Walmart parking lot.
That's not the most exciting thing to do.
Right. And there are some of them have pretty parking lots, and you can do your grocery shopping. You got a red box there to go get your movie. And in our experience, it's never free to park in a Walmart parking lot overnight. We end up spending, doing.
It becomes a shopping stop because that's why they do it. It's a captive audience. So a lot of people have assumptions that they can keep their costs way down. And they're really shocked when they get on the road and they find that the boondocking opportunities are not nearly what they thought they would be. The Walmarts and the other stops are not as convenient as they'd hoped. And it's just a lot of work to save all that money, particularly when you're new and you have a rig that hasn't been optimized for being energy independent.
Right. And you also keep in mind is when people talk about stopping at Walmart, you can't just pull into any Walmart.
True.
There are more and more of them that do not allow it. It might be city ordinances. It might just be the store's own unique policy because they've had troubles in the past or they don't have enough parking space. Right. So you can't just depend on you're just going to stop at any Walmart. You do need to do some research up front to make sure that the ones you want to go to are on your route. Another way that people often think that they're going to live cheaply on the road is by work camping. Work camping, there's a wide definition. This can be, combining any sort of work in with your camping. But most traditionally what people are referring to is getting hired on by an RV park, maybe to help manage it, maybe cleaning toilets, maybe checking people in, and in exchange for a site. Sounds great. A campground asks for maybe 10, 15 hours a week of work. You get a site that they normally charge, $400 or $500 a month for. Do the math on this.
Right.
Especially if they're requiring more than 10 or 15 hours per person.
Right.
Some of them we've seen them requiring 20 hours per person per week. That's 40 hours a week. I did the math.
You're getting paid peanuts.
Yes, do the math on it. You could be being paid $2 or $3 an hour. Now, if it's like a state park or something where you're volunteering, that's great. I mean, if you like volunteering, giving time.
If the job is really fun, work out your own real trade-offs. But there are a lot of stories of work campers feeling taken advantage of, and there are a lot of stories of work campers who would pay to do the job that they had because they just loved the experience of doing the work so much. So don't let yourself be taken advantage of. Do a favor to all other RVers who come after you. If the place is a pain and they're shoveling work on top of you, walk out. You've got a house with wheels, so hit the road and leave.
Right.
We know people who've just done that.
And we've heard from some people that have had fantastic experiences work camping, especially in some of the more volunteer ones where they find an RV park that just has fun people to work with, and it makes it worthwhile to give 10 or 20 hours of your week helping out, and then in exchange getting a site, and then having all this other free time stuff. We've also heard of some that they start out with 10 hours a week, and before they know they're creeping up and they're getting less appreciation. Yeah, just remember you can leave. Do your homework before you go in, and you just remember your house has wheels. But if you're counting on work camping to fund your travels,
then you could end up stuck. You
could end up in a very precarious situation because there are some that pay a stipend, that maybe give you an hourly range, and that might be great. Like if one person is in your household is able to work online and is establishing a business, and the other one can work in the campground's office, that might be a great way to balance out and give the other person, give you guys, some separation in your household and some alone time and things like that. So there are some benefits to it. Just be very aware that work camping alone is probably not going to fund your entire lifestyle.
Quite a few people do make it fund their entire lifestyle. They work it seasonally. They hop back and forth.
Yeah, well,
I've definitely known
there are work camping jobs like working at Amazon, working the sugar beet harvest, where you're actually earning a wage, maybe $10, $15 an hour.
Well, even like working at Yellowstone and stuff. People.
Yeah, but a lot of folks who do that also retired and have retirement income. We're talking specifically for those of us that are not retired. Don't have the financial independence to just volunteer all of our time.
But the one gotcha to watch out for, and I've run across this several times, is people who are so close to the edge of their finances that they get a work camping job that then they can't afford to leave, and then we've heard horror stories of they're taken advantage of. They've got a horrible, hellacious job. They can't wait for the season to end, but their bonus is wrapped up, and they basically don't get paid anything until they leave. And that's the money they need to even drive on to the next town. So don't let yourself get trapped like that. It's a very, very bad recipe.
Right. And another way to reduce your camping costs is courtesy parking. And this is staying with friends and families at their homes where they might have a driveway or a side yard, a backyard, or something where they can park your RV. This is fantastic. We love
being your neighbors, new neighbors to old friends.
So yes, we do love that. Just be aware that make sure that where you're going, that the RV ordinances in the area allow for you to be there, so you don't get the knock on the door or be told you have to move out. Make sure their neighbors are on board with this. Especially if you're going to be there more than a couple days. And also keep in mind that not all households have full hookups for an RV. They might have a power outlet in their garage that you can plug into, but that's only going to be enough to run your lights. You turn on an air conditioner, you're tripping a breaker.
And if you trip their breaker and have something in their house go out, and like their fridge loses spoils food because you turned on an air conditioner and couldn't get in to reset the breakers, that's a way to lose friends that quickly. So, yes, when you're being courtesy parking on somebody else's space, be very, very conscientious of not interfering with their systems.
Right. So, yeah, and just also keep in mind, if someone is offering you, free camping at their house, especially if it's more than a couple nights. I mean, for a couple nights, we have found most people appreciate just the variety in their life of having us there. But more than that, make sure you're contributing some way to their household. Find ways to thank them, whether it be taking them out to dinner, fixing a meal for them, helping them with a chore around the house,
or even paying a basic rent or something.
Right.
Like, okay, hey, I'm going to be here. You've got full hookups. I will be your tend your fields and watch out for things.
So those were that what we just listed was some of the free ways that we hear often that people have the dreams of how they're going to make RVing a cheap experience for them. The reality of the matter has been for us anyway.
A mix, actually.
It's actually been a mix. When we first started out, especially when we had a smaller camper, we did a lot of boondocking and a lot of stealth camping, a lot of staying with friends.
Particularly when you've got a camper that can fit into any driveway, that becomes very easy to do. A bus, big RVs, you have a lot less flexibility in that regard. And we'll get to flexibility in a second.
We'll talk about some of that. So just be aware when you hit the road that if you find that the free camping resources aren't working out for you or you're not getting to be the places you want to be, RV parks, they can add up.
Particularly if you're staying for just 1 or 2 nights, they are often a horrible deal.
Well, I mean, they're a great deal if you're passing through and you need a place to stay. We found in most commercial RV parks, the rates typically start around $30. They can go up to $70 or $80 in some really, like Key West or New Orleans
Downtown New Orleans and
or
stuff, right?
San
You're
Francisco.
paying for location.
There are clubs like Passport America that give you a 50% discount at some RV parks, so you can get in places still for about $15 or $20 a night with full hookups. State parks, county parks, public lands, and things like that. We're seeing the prices creep up there, especially as states are having budget issues. You can still find them in some states in the teens. Usually they're going to be more in the 20s.
You'll find small towns in the Midwest actually have even free municipal parks with full hookups.
Right. So your nightly campground fees, they can get kind of pricey. They get a little cheaper if you can find a weekly deal. Usually you can figure on buying 6 nights, getting 1 free at a weekly rate.
And then if you go monthly, suddenly it goes from costing more than it would cost to rent an apartment in the area to being often very much cheaper.
Right.
Monthly rates can be fabulous at RV parks.
Right. So, we've seen monthly rates in the $300 range. The one we're at right now, we're paying $625 a month, and we're living in a very popular.
Just a few blocks from the beach.
Well, a few blocks from the beach and amenities and walking distance of grocery stores. So they're going to range. You go down to Key West, you're paying $1,800, $2,000 a month to stay down there during the winter, during the high season. You want to be in an urban area. You could be paying $900 a month to be downtown. So,
but that still can be a bargain for the location.
Right. It's all about location and these sorts of things and the amenities that you get. And usually a monthly campground fee does include your electric. Some don't. Be sure you know before going in if your fee is including all of the utilities. Is it going to be a usable internet that you're going to be able to actually rely on, or are you going to have to supplement by having a cellular plan or having lunch out at McDonald's every day? Other costs that you might encounter on the road, as much as you might say that you're going to keep your expenses limited, when you get out there and you find all the cool stuff there is to do, you're going to find it costs money to go do stuff. Yes, there's usually free stuff that you can find to do, museums and interesting artwork and things like that. But if you
start thinking like a tourist and living like a tourist,
my water.
Then you start having expenses like a tourist, as opposed to if this is just your life is on the road and there's cool stuff nearby and you just do cool stuff and no more frequently than you would if you were just living in a cool area. Then your expenses are just like a resident. It's vastly cheaper. When you're in tourist mentality of I'm going to see everything and do everything, well, then people blow their budgets and they're really shocked at how expensive living on the road is. But it doesn't have to be that way.
Yes, just balance. I usually advise that keep a little bit of fun money in there so that you can really experience the place that you're visiting. And keep in mind, you don't have to do all the tourist stuff all the time. There's usually cool ways that you can experience a town more like the locals do, and still keeping it on a decent budget, and still getting to sample some of the local favorites, the cuisines and things like that. Just also remember that it's not just the finances that you don't have a budget for, the waistline. It's really easy to want to eat out all the time, and like especially if you're in Austin, you want to eat Tex-Mex all the time. Oh, we do. I don't know.
You still in Austin, and you just work it by walking.
Right.
Okay.
An emergency fund, just like living anywhere else. Stuff happens. Emergencies come up. So make sure you know how you're going to handle an emergency.
Mm-hmm.
Most other costs are pretty much going to be the same as they are right now. If you like to eat expensive foods, you're probably going to still eat them on the road. If you eat cheaply, you're probably still going to eat cheaply on the road. Might want to factor in laundry costs.
Most stuff on the road, it really can be, if with a little bit of thought to it and a little bit of managing of your pace and where you stay, it's not hard to make life on the road cheaper and sometimes substantially cheaper than life in a traditional sticks and bricks house.
So just as a point of reference, in Pace and Kylie's article this morning, they said that between fuel and campground fees, they were averaging about $1,400 a month for their 5 months on the road. Now that's very high. And that probably is going to be more typical for someone just hitting the road where they're in hyper motion, trying to see it all, moving at a fast pace and paying a lot of high nightly campground fees. That could happen. Mm-hmm. And obviously it did for Pace and Kylie. By contrast, if you go and look at our monthly, now we've tracked our monthly costs on our blog. There's a link in that chat notes link I put up there. To our monthly cost log for the year 2012, and we did a combination of some long travel, staying in places for a long time, and we stayed a combination of urban and rural areas. Our combined cost between fuel for the bus and campground fees was $741 on average per month. For us, we consider that pretty good, considering we mainly stayed at RV parks and state parks.
That did not involve a lot of stealth or boondocking.
Yeah, we haven't done too much stealth camping or boondocking lately. In years past, if you go back look past, we have cheaper ones where we did more courtesy parking, more boondocking, and we've got the cost down even lower. But $741 a month for us, for always being what we consider to be the perfect spot for the moment.
I used to spend multiple times that on rent, so it's
for two people, we consider that pretty darn good. So that's the costs. We're going to go ahead and move on to our next topic. And some of the solutions that we have for keeping your costs down is slow down the pace of travel. When you slow down the pace, you can take advantage of the monthly rents at RV parks, and you have less fuel costs. Try to embrace how locals live. If you're staying out in the sticks and there's no Starbucks around,
there's a place that they get food.
Find where they shop. Don't be making hour-long trips all the time to go get the specialty item. Find maybe have it shipped in or stock up before you get there. There are ways to reduce your costs and living expenses by being local. And just keep reminding yourself you're not on vacation if you're trying to combine career and everything else in with this. Okay. Locations.
Okay, so yes, every place has trade-offs.
Okay.
And so people fantasize about, like in their fantasy, going through their head, they're thinking, I'm on a tranquil beach with a sunset, and then I've got this greatest restaurant in the world is right next door, and I've got amazing fast bandwidth and all these cool people nearby, and I'm right next to the city, and they're like, imagine, they're kind of conglomerating all these possibilities and thinking you're going to have it all the time. And That's very, very, very rare.
Yes, there are very few places that we've encountered where we are being able to park in, like, everything is perfect. You know, we like lots of space around our spot. We like to be out in nature. We like to be close to amenities. We like to be close to shopping. We like to...
Those kind of go against each other if it's not obvious. It's like, we like to have huge spaces. We like to not be near our neighbors and be able to leave our doors wide open, but then be walking distance to shops and restaurants. Well, not many campgrounds are going to give you both.
Right. So when you're staying in RV parks, like, the commercial ones, they're generally optimized from turning a profit. They've got land costs, they've got utility costs. They're trying to get as many spots in as close to possible. So very seldomly do you find one that's very laid out to give you a sense of privacy between your spots or much space around you.
You will notice that particularly places with full hookups, it's the sewers that are expensive to put down.
All the piping that has to go into them.
So places with full hookups tend to have the sites with full hookups crammed in together.
Or seemingly crammed.
It depends on the place,
yeah.
but for more often than not, if you a lot of state parks and national parks, most of the sites are just a water and electric, and they can be a lot more spread out. And even if they have like one section that has full hookups, that section is the place where everything is crammed in together. If you know that you only need to dump your tanks every 2 weeks, or you've got a porta tank that you can manually go dump your tanks without needing to move your rig, well, then take advantage of that, and just do that every 2 week chore. Pay attention to your water usage, and then you can be in a much more spacious and beautiful site.
Right, but if you need to be in urban areas where you don't have access to the pretty places, you're probably going to be staying in some commercial campgrounds or in RV parks in your stays. Or trailer parks. Like right now, we're staying in what's really a mobile home park that has RV spaces. We've stayed in some where your view out your window is your neighbor's sewer hose. They're slide out. You're hearing them sneeze and snore and all their other daily sounds, and also they're hearing yours too.
Most aren't that bad,
but we have had happen. If they're sitting out on their porch smoking a cigarette, well, guess what? You're breathing, or you're having to close up your windows on a nice spring day because you don't want their cigar smoke coming into your rig. Maybe you're smelling what they have for breakfast. RV parks are not always going to be the most scenic area right around you. But if you want to stay in the pretty places, which are typically, most people would agree that like state parks, county parks, places with a view where you might get a waterfront view or something like that, they're typically not going to be as close to the amenities that you might want to be near. So if you're like attending a conference or you're visiting family and friends, you might have a further drive to do those sorts of things.
Right. Yeah, you might be, even if the park is in an urban area, it might be on the far side of it with 30, 40 minutes of driving just to get in through the front gates.
Right, and also keep in mind many public campgrounds, especially during their peak seasons, also have limits on how long you can stay there. We found the most typical to be a 14-day limit. So
and a lot of them are completely booked full on weekends anyway.
Right, and especially if you don't get your reservations in a year in advance, you might be good to be able to pull in a couple last-minute reservations in some of the pretty popular places. So it's not always easy to be in the perfect spot all the time. Also, popular destinations for RVers during their peak season, like, the times you want to be there, are going to be, crowded. Try RVing in Florida during the winter and trying to get a long-term spot or even a short-term spot in a pretty place.
Or northern Michigan in the summer.
Oh, by the way, everything you heard about Cedar Key is not true. It sucks. Don't go there. Quit going there. We want to go there.
Yes, because if we keep talking about how awesome Cedar Key is, we'll never ever get a spot there again.
Right. So it can be very difficult to get into popular places. We did this last summer doing the Upper Peninsula of Michigan, and we managed it. But there were some times
on weekends, because actually, one nice thing about a lot of places is, I guess, people who are not living on the road tend to only have weekends off for some reason. I don't understand. It must be some sort of like cultural work thing. I don't know, some practice about working weekdays and weekends off. I don't get it, but weird. Weekends were a lot more crowded for some reason.
Also, seasonal variations can deter your plans. Pace and Kylie talked a lot about this in their post. How they had visions of going and visiting some friends who live up north, and they made a beeline back south once they figured out that their RV was not capable. It was not a four-seasonal one.
The way they put it is they realized their poop would explode. In other words, their pipes would freeze. And most RVs are made for weekend use in summer.
And we'll talk more about RV choice in a little bit. But yes, even if you are diligently following the good weather patterns, just go read some of the blogs in the last month or two from folks who Arizona is a popular place for RVers to go in the winter. Because they have a lot of boondocking air, and usually the temperatures are more moderate. Go read how many of them had ice and snow this year and had to resort to going to RV parks just to keep warm. Mm-hmm. Even with your best intentions, weather can be erratic. This past summer, we got caught in an untypical heat wave, which had us having to go find 50 amp service to keep both air conditioners going in 109 degree, 100% humidity conditions in St. Louis.
There's no affordable way to boondock in those sort of conditions.
So be aware that the weather is going to influence you in ways that you may not be used to when you're living in a stationary area. You may know your local weather patterns, and you have an extra snowy day or whatnot. You know how to deal with that in your house. In RV, it's a little bit different.
There's the catch of when you think, I'm living on the road, I can be at any place. I've got a friend who's having a wedding. I've got a graduation over here I want to go to, and there's this event and this concert and this music festival, and it's physically possible potentially to make them all if you drive like a trucker nonstop. You spend all your time in transit, and actually some of our first year on the road was kind of like that. Going from event to event to event. Got to get across the country to a wedding, then up here to an event, and then back here for this, and you're playing ping pong and you're exhausting yourself bouncing around
and burning a lot of fuel.
And in some cases, if these events really are that important,
fly
park the RV and fly.
Sometimes it's a lot less stress to find another way to get there than driving your house there, especially if when you get there's not ideal parking locations for your RV. It's when you create a life of the freedom to have location independence, you feel you have a lot of power. But with that power becomes the responsibility of really being able to choose where you can realistically be. And you may have family and friends who feel upset that, wait a minute, you now have the freedom to come to this.
Why aren't you here for this event? You know how much diesel that would cost? And then I can't park. I still have to park 40 minutes from your house because that's the nearest place where you can't. And, I mean, once you start to look into it, sometimes it's just, in some cases it's perfectly realistic, and it's a great idea, and it's wonderful. You can move your house and go to the event, get to the event early, volunteer, get your admission covered, and have a wonderful time. And other events and other types of things, it's just not practical. You'd be better off driving and getting a hotel or flying in and staying someplace. Just don't even think about bringing an RV. You gotta think these things through. It's not like what the initial fantasy is sometimes.
Right. And then another thing that I think comes unexpected. I know it came to me, and I know Pace and Kylie talked about it some, and some others that we've talked to is when you're moving from location to location, there is a ramp up of getting in tune with your new locality, whether it be learning a new grocery store chain or
learning what color the handles are on the fuel pumps.
Yes. Just ask Clark about that.
Yes. Our friend Clark.
He's right there.
Yes. Pulled into a gas station, saw green handles, and filled his diesel tank with mid-grade unleaded. Just because it was an unfamiliar area. And
sorry, Clark, we told you we're going to keep living on you.
And turns into a very expensive mistake. And a lot of that, you wouldn't make that sort of mistake in an area you lived a long time. As a nomad, you're in a lot more unfamiliar situations, and sometimes every one of us is going to make dumb mistakes being in a new place.
Right. And there's also, that the things like when you live in your location, when your car breaks down, you probably have a favorite mechanic you can take it to.
or a friend who could tell you where to go.
Right.
As opposed to being,
if your cat gets sick, you might have a regular vet locally, but when you're traveling, you're kind of having to check Yelp. You're having to ask other campers in your area. You're having to find locals to give you recommendations of where it's a reliable place you can go. It's like, where can you get the best pizza? You probably know that on your block, but you don't necessarily know that when you pull into a new town. So lack of continuity means you do need to be more alert. You do need to actually read the sign on the gas pumps. We once we were camping in Colorado at a friend's place, and she kind of mentioned she had rattlesnakes out there, but we ended up our cat got bit by a rattlesnake, and we had to use resources to find where to take her to get treated, and she's fine. She came through it just fine, but you have to you do have to be more aware of your local surroundings, and you can't just assume that everything is like you're used to.
Yeah.
Solutions. And instead of, just keep in mind the positives of the places that you're visiting. Remember that when you're staying at a state park or out in a national park, you're not there to shop at Trader Joe's. Stock up before you get to the places so you don't have to make those sorts of things.
When you're in civilization, you're not there. When you get to the RV park spot closest to downtown San Francisco, you're not there because you have a great view out your window. You're there because you're walking distance to a BART station. So your view out your window in that case might be the side of somebody else's rig, but your real reason you're there is you're a 5-minute walk to a train gives you access to the most beautiful city on earth. It's like, that's why you're there.
Right. Just a couple weeks ago, we were staying over on the other coast of Florida in Spring Hill. We were in an RV park. The park itself was okay, but our spot was so close that, the guy's slide out from next door
we couldn't have opened our awning.
We couldn't even open our awning. It was so close. But we weren't there to open our awning. We weren't there to have great views out our window. We were there because we wanted to visit Chris's parents.
It was the closest place to be to my parents.
And it was the only RV park that happened to have availability for a last-minute stay.
Sometimes you can't have it all. Sometimes you manage it, and then you do happy dances and everything, but pay attention to your trade-offs and just understand what they are and work with them.
And remember, your house has wheels. You will be moving on. If today you're focused on urban living and riding BART around San Francisco, next week you can focus on being someplace
on the California coast and stepping out your door on watching the dolphins go by.
Yes. Okay, so also, mix it up and release the expectations that you can do it all. Because you can't. There's no way you're going to be able to run your business, keep your income going, see every tourist spot along the way, visit everybody you ever knew, drive 6 hours a day, and keep your sanity. If you can do that, please let us know what supplements you're taking, because that would be awesome. And just train yourself. When you pull into a new location, you're going to have to be a little more alert as to what's around you. Okay.
Okay, this is the part of choosing the right RV. A lot of people, when they're fantasizing about life on the road, they're imagining this amazing TARDIS RV that doesn't exist, that is small enough to go everywhere, yet big enough to have giant parties on the inside, and basically they're combining all the traits of every possible RV, but without taking into account the trade-offs and the realities. And the realities, there's a lot of trade-offs, particularly between size, cost, and agility, and certain core features. And you have to take them into account. You absolutely have to take them into account.
Right. So there is no perfect RV that is perfect for full timing. And what's good for us, what's good for Pace and Kylie, what's good for Clark, what is good for any other blogger that you might have read, is not going to be the right choice for you. Some of the trade-offs, if you have a larger rig, it's going to have a lot of living space that you're going to be able to spread out more. You might have room to have your hobbies. You might have a good kitchen to cook in. but you're going to have less agility. You might find that there's less RV parks that can take you last minute. You might have less options for finding a spot. Clark, who's on the chat thread there, he has a bus similar size to ours and tows a big trailer behind it. And he recently tried to come through town, and we couldn't find him an RV spot in town to stay at. If you have a small rig, like I think Chris is getting a picture of our first RV, which was a 16-foot travel trailer, we can pull that thing in anywhere. But we also can stand up inside of it. We had a cook outside. This is if you don't know much of our history, that was our first travel trailer that we full-timed in for 7 months.
And I started off on that solo. This thing is a tabbed clamshell, and the joy of that was particularly when it was being towed by a little diesel 4-wheel drive Jeep, could go anywhere. I could do a U-turn with just 2 lanes. I was as maneuverable as a car.
Okay, but we didn't have air conditioning.
Right.
We did not have a refrigerator, and we did not have a bathroom. 7 months in that.
Right.
We're still alive. We didn't kill each other.
Yes. But it does open you to, like, you see some interesting spot on the side of the road, you can pull over and check it out. You see a strange, crazy dirt road going up the side of a mountain. You could go bounce down that and still be confident that you could do a U-turn in just a single space of a road. We had a lot more agility with that. Agility was great. But it had a price. It had inside it could either be a table or a bed. That meant if we were having a work day, we both had to wake up at the same time, unmake the bed, stuff it away, pull up the table, and then if he was working, like one night, he was working late into the night on a project, and I wanted to go to bed early, and I ended up putting the cushions on the floor and sleeping at his feet. It was very cute.
It was very cute for one night. It wasn't happening anymore. Right. Our second rig was a foot larger. It was really great, and now we're in a 35-foot bus conversion. But actually, the one of the big changes, the Oliver combined with the Jeep was still very, very maneuverable and could go almost anywhere. But then we traded the Jeep, a small Jeep Liberty, for a Toyota Tundra, which is a full-size truck, and suddenly a lot of our agility went away. Even though the trailer was still really small, the Tundra wasn't 4-wheel drive, so we no longer had the confidence to go into a lot of the places we went. But in particular, the Tundra had a really long wheelbase and had a turning radius that I've actually looked it up is basically the same as our current bus. So many things. You couldn't go down a road with any confidence that you'd be able to get out again. Right. With the Jeep, even with the Oliver, we could still do a multi-point turn and turn around almost anywhere. With the Tundra, it was like, we might have to back up miles if we go this way. Suddenly we're not going. We did. We did. So once we lost that agility, it was a lot easier for us to give up having a small trailer because we weren't getting the benefits of it anymore. Right. So that's why the bus made sense. And now it's like we have a mansion. And now we have a Mini Cooper that's behind us that has a ton of agility as a Mini Cooper. So our compromise is we don't travel many miles in the bus. Last year, I think we did 6,500 miles. And we don't explore little back roads in the bus very often. Right. We park it. We find an RV park to put it at. And then we take the Mini around for exploring and seeing people and things like that. So it works for us for now. And I'm sure in a couple of years, it'll be changed. Who knows? We might change it up. That's our thing is we leave open. We don't have so much invested in any of our stuff that we can't easily change it up. Mm-hmm. Let's see. Okay, so one of the situations that Pace and Kylie got into is they had a requirement. They're traveling part-time with their teenage son, who specifically requested that he have his own bedroom. Now, just very hard to come by which is hard to come in any RV. In any RVs, but some fifth-wheel models have a separate bedroom. So that left them having to look at larger fifth wheels to have the rear bedroom. Mm-hmm. Which would have been a great layout for them. Unfortunately, their son did not travel with them full-time. Didn't work out, and they're left with a bigger rig than they needed for the rest of the time. And the one thing a lot of people don't quite realize that a fifth wheel or any big trailer means you have a big truck or a big tow vehicle that is then with you all the time. That becomes your daily vehicle. And even with just our Tundra, which is a full-size truck, not a dually, not a huge fifth-wheel towing truck,
there's a lot of places you couldn't comfortably go. With the Jeep, we could go zip around downtown cities. We can go into any parking lot anywhere. It was small and nimble and could park anywhere. The Tundra couldn't go places. It was a bear in traffic. There were parking lots. It was just too tight to maneuver in. It was uncomfortable to maneuver in. If you get a big dually that can pull a fifth wheel, well, you're stuck with even a bigger monster all the time. That's your everyday driver, and that becomes a huge pain.
Right, and that is one of the things that seems to be a pretty large deciding factor for Pace and Kylie in deciding to sell their RV and move permanently somewhere. Is they were not comfortable driving that dually truck everywhere. It was not getting great gas mileage, so when they were staying with us in Cedar Key, when they needed to go in and do a grocery run, it was a very pricey proposition for them to do that. And then it was, hard for them to park and turn around. It didn't give them agility and all these other things. So all the benefits of a fifth wheel, which are fantastic, give you a fantastic living space when you're still. But you kind of have to keep that in mind. Is what's going to be your daily driver? And you'll see some people that have this really massive, more like looking like a Freightliner heavy duty vehicle that pulls their fifth wheel, and then they have somehow docking in there like a small smart car on there.
Or a lot of people who are more seasonal migrators in a fifth wheel actually have two cars. They have their tow vehicle, their truck that moves the fifth wheel around and maybe does some big work chores, and when they're migrating snowbird style from place to place, the second person in the couple follows behind in their other daily driver car. That's the only way they can, even though they're covering massive miles in two separate vehicles, the amount of money they save on fuel during the rest of the year more than pays for that difference, and the convenience of having a simpler car, smaller car.
So there's all ways to go about it, but like I said, there's no perfect setup, and it's, even for us, we've changed up our setup 3-4 times, depending upon if you consider the tow vehicles that we've tried and not tried. It may not. You may have the perfect setup for you for now, but you may decide in a year or two that you want to change the style of traveling that you did. You might want to do maybe more boondocking than you were doing before, or you want to do less because you're finding that you're more drawn to urban areas. Or you may decide that, like us, we wanted to slow down the pace. We wanted to focus more on our business and working more, so we wanted more desk space, which was a major deciding factor in doing a bus conversion for us. So, leave it open that you could change things.
Right. And that's one of the other traps that people fall into.
We'll get to that.
Oh, okay. Fine. I'm skipping ahead.
Yeah, you're skipping ahead. I see outline. Follow the outline.
Okay.
Okay. Another thing to keep in mind with RVs, they're not, most RVs, remember RV stands for recreational vehicle.
Right.
When you're living in an RV full time, that's not recreational.
Right. There's actually quite a few RVs have in their warranty, if you read the fine print language, which I'm prone to do because I read manuals, they will say that your warranty is void if you live in it full time. Very, very few RVs are specifically designed to cater to full timers, and of either the full time RVs or the ones that are recreational, a small percentage of them are actually designed to be true 4-season, use them all year round, and have plumbing all year round RVs. That's something that I think catches a lot of newbies off guard is, particularly if you have an RV that is basically a summer RV, once you get to temperatures that might dip down into freezing in the evenings, suddenly that RV is no longer quite so useful. It might start to destroy itself as pipes freeze if it's not designed to handle that.
Right. And just remember, you're driving your house too, and there's risks that come along with that. Tires can blow up on the side of the road; they can cause damage.
Your house is under constant earthquake conditions as well. So, an RV, the cheaper RVs that you find on a lot of lots are designed for a typical RV use of 4 weekends a summer, as opposed to non-stop motion. So, a lot of our full-time RVers put more miles on their rigs in the course of a year than some other RVs have in their entire lifetime, some more traditionally recreationally used ones. So, if you go and you buy the cheap rig that's on sale at the local RV lot, you're kind of setting yourself up for disappointment if you're buying, particularly if you're buying it new and you're expecting it's going to be rock solid and built to last. Unless you're buying it from the places that cater to the full-timers and four-seasoners and off-roaders, you're going to be very disappointed after a year of bouncing it around and full-time use.
Right. So how can you best try to find your right RV? First one, go look, when you're shopping, look at as many RVs as you can. Talk to lots of RVers about what they like and what they don't like about their setup. Don't fall in love with the first one that you see. Go look at lots of them. Get a real feel for the variability of construction, how solid they feel, how some don't feel as solid. Really try to feel how your day-to-day life will be in one. What will it be like moving around in your kitchen while your kids or your partner are getting ready for the day?
One really good tip is if you're looking, first off, don't buy a new RV unless you really, really know exactly what you want and you know what you're getting into, because for the most part you're just buying a lot of depreciation and headache. I've bought 2 new RVs in my life, so I'm not the best follower of that advice, and I've gotten very lucky both times. But even if you're buying a new RV, go find the model that you're looking at or the company or the manufacturer and look at something that from them. Find a used one that's 5 or 10 years old and see how they held up.
Right. So RVs are going to have a massive depreciation on a new one when you first drive it off the lot. A lot of people say, well, it's not going to have problems, but that's not true because it hasn't been shook out yet. Remember, right. RVs are under constant earthquake conditions. When you buy a slightly used RV, especially if it was heavily used.
If it's something that was used by a full-timer, they've likely lived with and fixed and identified most of the problems. So if it's like been used for 2 or 3 years, full-time use, that's awesome. Those are the best used ones to find.
And we try to advise people as much as possible is when you're buying your first RV, there's 2 ways to go about it. And we say, look at your first RV as temporary, because you will not know how you live on the road until you're living on the road. You can try renting an RV for a week. That ain't going to tell you much at all, really, because I use the analogy that when you rent an RV to see if you want to full-time or how you'll full-time, that's kind of like renting a motel room to see if you'll like living in a condo. Yes, there's some similarities, but by and large, they're not the same as living in your space that you have control over, trying to balance life and work and socials and everything else long-term versus a short-term rental in a heavily used rig. So try to look at your first RV as temporary. Leave it very open that in a year or 2 or even less that you might want to change things up. Because how you envision life on the road is going to be like, I pretty much guarantee you it's going to be different.
And so the classic mistake so many people make is they overextend themselves to get their first RV, and then they're stuck in a position of that it's really impossible or impractical for them to change after 6 months or a year. They're underwater. Actually, particularly if they bought something new, they're likely underwater for several years if they financed it. So they've got to this point of it will cost them money to find something that's even better for them. They'll have to pay somebody to take it off their hands. And that's a horrible place to be in. Don't let yourself get into that trap.
So if you can at all, find an RV that, there are some good deals out there.
A lot of great deals.
That if you decide to change things up in a year, you're not going to be taking a huge loss. And ways to avoid that is don't buy new.
Unless you really know what you want.
Yes. There's another take on it we've heard in some of the forums is buy your third RV first. If you happen to do that, well, good on you. It can happen. If you do your research for a long time, it's very possible. But especially if this is a relatively new idea and you're trying to fast track it, like Pace and Cowley work, they kind of gave themselves 2.5, 3 months to do it. We gave ourselves Well, you give yourself 2 months.
I know. Yeah, I fast-tracked mine like crazy the first time around.
Right. There's nothing wrong with fast-tracking it. Just leave yourself agility to get out of your decisions. Don't go don't go blow your whole budget on a brand new rig that you think is going to be perfect.
No, I bought a relatively cheap rig and paid cash, and I did not have any debt all around it, so I could walk away when I realized how badly it was built.
Regardless of how much enthusiasm you have right now for this vision that you have for how life on the road is going to be, things can change. It might be, it just doesn't, it's not like how you envisioned it, so you no longer like the lifestyle. You might have a life change that requires you to locate somewhere. Maybe you get an out-of-the-blue fantastic job offer that requires you to move somewhere. Maybe you have a family situation that requires you to move in with a loved one for a while to caretake them. So many situations can come up that you might need to sell the RV.
And actually, one thing I've heard of is maybe you'll discover that you just cannot be in an environment that has got formaldehyde. That most modern RVs have are made of pressboard that leach out slight amounts of formaldehyde, and some people are hypersensitive to this. And we've run across people who've got to the point that they could not be in certain modern RVs, just no matter how old they were. Well, if you bought one of those and that you're one of those people who are sensitive, well, you're really hosed.
Right.
So figure out what are the killers for you.
Yes. And also another thing is a lot of people think they'll just go out and buy an older RV. And fix it up as I go, and you can do that. You can do great with that. You can do a lot of things with an old RV. I mean, our bus is 50 years old. The conversion was done about 20 years ago. We're doing great with it. Fortunately, we fall into most places consider us vintage, not old. That means, I guess there's a time in there where there makes a difference. But there are some RV parks that have age restrictions, and if you're RV is old and looks old, not vintage.
Yes.
There's a difference.
If it looks old and beat up, it's basically the age restrictions RV parks use as an excuse to keep out rigs that look old and beat up.
Right. So, and so, they're kind of like homeowners associations. They have a right to have their communities look how they want them or attract the type of customers they want. So you can limit your options if you need to be staying in specific locations in your travels, and you have an older, beat-up-looking RV, you could run into problems finding places to stay. Okay. The last topic that we have on our outline here is balancing life while on the road. After we get done with this one, we will open it up to questions, either on topic or not.
43.
Yeah. So go ahead and hold your questions for a little bit if you can. I've seen some of you have been posting them. We're trying to stay on topic, and then
we're not paying attention to the chat.
We're not
yet.
We're not really paying attention to the chat right now.
It's a small font.
It is a very small font, and I would have to be doing this if I'm paying attention to the chat. This is what it looks like. Okay. All right. So our last topic that we're going to cover this evening is the realities of balancing your life while traveling full time. Unless you've earned your retirement, or early or within a traditional time span, or you're able to take some sort of gap break and you're kind of taking an extended vacation. Most of us are trying to juggle careers along with a mobile lifestyle. And the biggest point I need to make here is this is not an extended vacation. We have to get in our work hours. We have to get work done. We have to clean. We don't have a maid who comes in and makes our bed every morning. We have a social life. We like to meet with people, so we like to make time for socializing with people.
We have a blog to keep up and lots of demanding readers and stuff. So
we have emails to answer. We have a blog to keep up. We have a relationship that we have to put attention and focus on to. We have a cat.
She takes more work than anything.
We have meals to cook. We can't eat out every single day. So, if your only experience of travel is going on vacation or business trips where you're staying in a hotel and a lot of those things are taken care of and you deal with all of life when you get back home, that's not what life on the road is like.
A lot of people fantasize that they're going to hit the road and their life will be carefree. And, well, no, actually, for the most part, a lot of those cares just come with you. Plus, then you've got, the other cares of RV upkeep and navigation and driving and logistics and all sorts of other stuff. So, some people get overwhelmed and frustrated and disappointed that it isn't as quite as carefree as they imagined. Well, of course not. But they don't think it through, and that's one of the realities that is hard for some people to come to grips with at first.
Right. I would say the first 2 years that we were on the road, we went at a much faster pace. It would be unusual for us to be someplace more than a week or two at a time. But that meant that we were constantly juggling logistics. Like you said, routing, finding places that we were going to be able to stay, whether we're doing an RV park, staying with a friend, or trying to find an ideal boondocking location. That's a lot to be juggling all the time.
And then it's really, really hard to change gears back to work.
Right. We personally have found that if we're having a travel day, we really, no matter if it's 2 hours that we're driving or 12 hours that we're driving, well, 12 hours is insane, but
travel days are travel days. It's really hard to do a travel day and a work day combined. You can do it if you need to.
And we can fit in little tasks.
Right.
Like I can catch up on email and phone calls with the clients and things like that. But as far as getting productive work hours in, we're software developers, so writing code, doing graphic design, user interface design, writing technical manuals and things like that. We don't have the energy when we've dealt with packing up the sewer hoses and the electrical cords and getting everything.
Fighting to get back online and get a stable internet connection and just doing the basic logistics. By the time you're done that, you're not quite ready to dive into a work project usually. So one thing we came up early on, actually, just both for sanity and social life and a chance to see the area we're at and a chance to get work done, was what we called the 2-night rule, where anytime we're stopping, other than being
like a Walmart
in intentional transit, like other than like we're stopping here just to sleep and move on, we stay at least 2 nights in a place. So we've got one full entire day to either be a work day or a tourist day or just a chill day or something, but no travel involved. Sometimes 3 nights, 4 nights, 5 nights a week is great.
Yeah, we prefer,
at least 2 nights, even if we're trying to cover ground. 2 nights makes all the difference.
Right. So you have to find a way to balance it. There have been times when we've made a very conscious decision to try to get halfway across country within a set amount of time. Well, in those cases, we just have to release expectations that
we get no work done this week. We're traveling.
Like we let our clients know that we're there for support mode and maintenance mode, but we plan our big projects where we need to put in long hours. We try not to integrate those in when we're making those major transitions very quickly. We go a little lax on the blog. We don't do as many blog posts. You need to find ways to find that balance. Another thing that if you haven't ever worked for yourself and you're trying, in part of your income earning method that you're envisioning of being on the road is starting a business. Starting a business is its own major life change.
Starting a business and starting off trying to figure out how to be a nomad both at the same time is taking on 2 huge things all at once.
And don't underestimate how much time and mental energy it takes to get a business to a point of earning an income. We hear a lot of people think about trying to create passive income, whether that be affiliate marketing, like you start a blog and you're going to earn a lot of money. That doesn't happen, by the way. Passive income is not easy income. It just means you put a heck of a lot of work in up front and hope it pays off over time.
Right. That's the best way to describe it. So much of the 4-hour work week type mentality for a lot of people is that it's the 160 hours and work months and crazy amounts of effort they put in advance to set it up, and a lot of times that doesn't pay off at all. You don't get, the machinery doesn't get greased properly, and you end up with nothing. So you put in a lot of effort up front for no payoff. Sometimes it works and you end up getting some nice residual income and ongoing systems and stuff. But that's a whole other topic, a whole other universe of things of it. But there is no simple, easy, quick, rich scheme. Being on the road doesn't make it easier. It makes it harder because you're juggling the being on the road part. The nice advantage where being on the road makes it easier is that you can control it. You can control your expenses a lot easier than you can in a fixed location. Is if you need to dial down your expenses because the business isn't ramping up yet, well, you go find a place that's $200 a month out in the boonies and book 3 months and focus on work while your expenses are really, really low. Stop traveling, stop racking up a lot of miles, make your expenses really low, and buckle down, focus on work. You've got more flexibility when you're a nomad, more flexibility to do that, but you can't have it all. You just have the flexibility to make your trade-offs as necessary.
Right. There are only so many hours in the day.
Right.
And just really keep that in mind. One piece of advice is if you have the financial flexibility to do it, maybe start your travels off for the first 3 months, 6 months, doing it as an extended vacation mode, so you can get out there and see it. I think get used to it, see what it's like to be on the road, to be in hypermotion. Plan not to do as much working in that time period, if you can afford it. I mean, if you can't, well, there's nothing wrong with that. There is really no right or wrong way to do it, but it makes it difficult. So I think that kind of wraps up the talking points that we had to present for this evening.
Slide this to the side.
I'm going to slide the chat screen over so now we can actually see your chats.
Bring on the questions.
I see a couple of you commenting on the advertising. Just note that is from Ustream.
We get none of that.
That is not coming from us. And that is because we are using the free version of Ustream because we are cheap. This is our gift.
Yes.
You're getting our gift of our time to share
the
this
paid version of Ustream is outrageously expensive.
Yes. Ustream costs $99 a month to remove those ads. If you would like the ads removed, our PayPal account is us at technomadia.com, $99.
But we will take the recording of this. Ustream is nice in that they'll let us take the full recording and transplant this over to YouTube where you can actually see everything without advertising and stuff at some point.
All right, so let's go ahead and if you've asked questions before, don't assume that we've seen them because they have been scrolling by and been very small font. So if you have questions, go ahead and start typing them in. If you haven't found the chat box, it's in the upper right-hand corner. It's a tab right next to the tab that says videos. And you can click over there and you can type your questions in. If you're not logged into Ustream, you're just going to come up as kind of an anonymous user. Please, if you want us to address you by name, include your name in your comments.
What is the best phone and internet setup? I think that's our main prior video and several other articles.
So if you have questions about internet and phone setup, we actually did a dedicated video chat topic on it just about 2 months ago. If you go to technomadia.com/internet, you will find our article that has our current arsenal, and it was what our current recommendation is. There is also the video is embedded right in there, and you can watch an hour-long video of us talking about internet.
Right. And by the way, this video Ustream is being brought to you by AT&T LTE Unlimited via Shree's iPad Mini. So unlimited AT&T for the win.
Okay. Next question is: do we have a storage facility? Yes, we do currently have a storage facility. Chris did not fully purge all of his stuff when he hit the road.
So you saw the size of the tab that I hit. I actually intentionally set up the storage unit as a walk-in closet. So that the tab was so incredibly small, I could just go by the storage unit 2 or 3 times a year and cycle out stuff. There was a wardrobe inside, there was shelves, everything was accessible, so I could change things up, which worked out really great for a small rig, particularly when I was cycling through California regularly. We haven't been back in California since we've gotten the bus, since actually well before we've gotten the bus. So we're long overdue to clear out and purge the storage unit. We just need to get back and do it.
Right now, our focus, if you are not a regular blog reader, we are currently in Florida and have been for quite a while, and we probably will be here for hopefully a long while. My father is now on hospice, so we're focusing our life for now on being where our hearts want to be, and that's with family.
So I haven't seen my storage unit in a very long time, and I'm very eager to get rid of it entirely.
Okay. Next question was, what do we do after our workday? Do we work 9 to 5? And do we go out and explore a bit? And how do we appreciate our location with a workday?
Some days I work 9 to 5, but that's 9 p.m.
to 5 a.m. We work. We have several contract customers that we work for that we're on call for during what most people consider a normal Monday through Friday work hour. We also do app development for iPhone and iPad. We do take on some interesting little gigs. Most of the time we're working in bursts and spurts, so
we have maintenance mode of just kind of making sure we're paying attention to email and on top of things for a while, and then we'll buckle down and work nonstop for a week or two.
Right. So we prefer to work more like we'll put aside a week or two and work 10, 15-hour days, and then.
But even so, we often aren't very constrained to a particular schedule.
Right. We usually just have a deadline. We're trying to get something done.
Right. So one thing we really love is that the flexibility of being someplace with a beautiful view. So we can have a great work day with an amazing view of like the
water.
Water. Love working with water views, or the boats going through the Soo Locks when we were up in Michigan and stuff. Some
places
sort
so
of
we can go
inspiring view out our window.
So when we are places, we tend to be hyper local when we go visit places. When we go to a location, it's because that's where we want to be, whether it be for exploring the small little town, someplace we can walk. We love places where we can walk to.
Mm-hmm.
If it depends upon where we're at. If we're near family, when we're visiting, we're spending right now. We're spending a lot of time with my family. That's where we want to be. If we're,
And an ideal work schedule that we really like as nomads is, do work stuff through mid-afternoon, and then head out. If we're at a campground or someplace, go out and do the hikes and do other stuff like spend our afternoon, go kayaking, get some outside time in during prime time, come back, have dinner, and then work in the evening after dark where there's nothing to see or do nearby.
Right. But if we're, staying with friends or friends are visiting, we're flexible. We
flexibility for the win.
So, okay. Any good boondocking apps? I have not.
Allstays has got a lot of
So Allstays, the Camp and RV app that we reviewed in the most recent blog post, has some boondocking locations, but as far as all boondocking locations, it's really difficult to. I don't think there's a single source for them all. I think there's a lot of like the Days End directory from Escapees. There's a couple sites like freecampsites.net that list a lot of them. I don't know of any single app that's really good for all of them.
Right. Somebody asks, what is the 2-day rule again? What is it again? Did not hear. I guess it might have been a commercial interrupted it. The 2-night rule we came up with is that if we're going to stop any place and we're not in just like, we're stopping for a few hours to hit the road again like a Walmart, we will stay at least 2 nights, because the amount of effort that goes into setting up camp and then undoing camp leaves you no time to see the place, no time to get any work done, no time to relax. So if you're going to stop, even if you're still trying to cover miles, stop for at least 2 nights. Just drive longer to make up for it if you've got deadlines and stuff. You will be saner and happier because you'll have that one full day to be in a place to get work done, to relax, or to see the sights. At least have a full day.
And that's our rule. I mean, that's not to be your rule. That's just what we found works for us.
Yeah.
I actually prefer the 1 week rule. But
1 week is even better. But if you're trying to cover ground, the 2-night, you could almost always make it up with a little bit extra driving the days before and after.
Right. Let's see. Do you find it more or less challenging to stay fit and eat healthy? It can be challenging sometimes, especially if you're trying to balance a lot of travel time. Sometimes it's easier if we're someplace with good walking and hiking trails. It really just depends upon where we're at. We try to focus on being active every day. We try to, eat healthy because we do a lot of cooking at home.
I don't think it's any harder or not than being when I was living in a fixed home.
Yeah, life is distracting.
Yes.
No matter if you're fixed place or not, it's easy to make excuses to not go out for the walk. It's, and if it's a pretty day, it's easy to make an excuse to go out for a walk.
Discovery Owners has
It's about the boondocking app. Let's see. Granted that every year differs seasonally, do you think about certain regions to center on? Our travels are based mainly around people we want to see.
Up until
and
last year,
to.
Burning Man used to be a centerpiece for us. So every August in northern Nevada, but family has trumped that for the last this past year and this coming year. But so that actually had us on an east-west schedule of, we'd go west for the summer and then come east for the winter, go west for the summer, come east for the winter was kind of happening, but, there's not really too much of a seasonal focus.
No, we try to be in good weather or not, but we regularly screw that up.
Snowplow. No snowplows here.
Go ahead and keep your questions coming if you've got them.
think that's a link to a boondocking app. Cool. I'll have to check that out later.
Do we have a bucket list of things that you're trying to do? Nope.
When I first started, before I hit the road 7 years ago, I had on my list of things I will get done in my first year on the road with the tab would be Alaska and Baja, Mexico. And I haven't made either of them yet. So I still intend to get to both Alaska and Baja, but there's no rush. They're not going anywhere.
Yeah, we're experienced.
And the path kind of makes itself clear in the moment ahead of you.
Yeah, we prefer to follow serendipity. Actually, if you see, this is our serendipity sign. These are new magnets that you can order from the website. The dip sign is a vandalized serendipity sign.
Well, it's a sign, road sign that was at the bottom of our street in.
We lived in St. John. So we follow serendipity. This is our road sign. When we see serendipity, that's what we follow.
So I have a question about safety on the road, personal safety. Mostly we just rely on our attack cat because. Safety on the road has never felt any. Actually, we have advantages over a fixed place because if you feel like you're in an uncomfortable environment or you don't like the neighbors, well, you can move. So in general, I feel a lot safer on the road than just in general. Period. You've got so much control and flexibility.
Right. We recently did an entire long article about safety on the road. If you look in our No Excuses series, which is linked prominently all over the place. You can read everything that we have to say about safety on the road in that article.
Yeah.
We might eventually.
That could be a topic of itself too. Is we could share some of the specific stories and have other people contribute some. But safety has never really been too big of an issue.
Right.
How long until you get calendar and stickers? So I guess somebody ordered the stick calendars and stickers.
Thank you for ordering those. Zazzle you can check in with Zazzle on that.
We did our test order and
we did our test order and they said like 3 to 5 days until they were produced and shipped, and they all arrived earlier than expected. So
yeah. But yeah, that's Zazzle. We have no control, but let us know if you have a bad experience because we just started with Zazzle. If you don't know what we're talking about, we just tried. Look at one of our calendars.
We just started experimenting with creating a calendar and some serendipity stickers and magnets. But this is our new Cedar Key Sunset Calendar. We just stayed up in Cedar Key, Florida, so you can see some of our sunset pictures that we're posting. And it starts in March, so you get all the months. But you can now order these.
So that's kind of an experiment.
So we're kind of experimenting with the way our web hosting solution right now is we're doing a shared hosting that costs us like $10 a month to bring the site to you. Unfortunately, the website is being slow and sluggish lately from all the traffic.
To go up to a web hosting that is more equivalent to our load doesn't just double our cost, it goes up to $100-something a month.
Yeah, so we're looking at facing $100 plus month hosting expenses on top of the time, energy, and effort we put into it. And since we try
to make the blog advertising free and non-commercial, we're trying to think, well,
what are ways that we can? Yes. So we're trying to find ways that we can possibly fund at least the expenses of keeping the internet going.
Discuss personal protection on the road. Okay. That's specific. To go to safety.
Go to safety. Okay. Just go read the safety. Go read the safety document for personal protection. Excellent. It says, do you have any special camera for projects as a calendar? No, we actually, as far as our camera, we have several different cameras. We weren't specifically shooting a calendar. We just happened to get a lot of good shots and tried it. So
our three main cameras are a Canon S100. Is a point and shoot, a very high end, nice point and shoot. A Panasonic G1, which is a micro four thirds SLR style, but there's no reflex in it. There's no prism, but it's an interchangeable lens, a great little camera. And then our iPhones, which do a lot of our snapshotty stuff. So those are the cameras we use for the tech arsenal. How does us handle hills?
Handle hills with a toad. We haven't done too many hills.
Oh, we did.
No,
the big hill at Eagles Pass. Yeah, it's the bus just our Mini is so light compared to the bus that I don't think the Toad makes much difference. The bus doesn't handle hills very well at all.
The bus goes slow up hills, regardless.
It goes slow and just goes, and you watch the heat and hope it doesn't get too hot. But yeah, big hills are a little exciting, or a little, but take it slow and easy. I added my own comments.
Well, that's where they'll come.
Okay. Oh, okay, cool.
All right.
Any final questions? Last chance.
This is last call for the questions.
And I think this chat might be over. So it's been fun.
Right. We thank you for joining us.
Oh. Plans for solar.
Yes, we have plans for solar.
Yes. Yeah, the Tab and the Oliver have had solar. The bus I got pre-wired last year, but we've been mostly on poles, so it hasn't made sense to invest in actually putting the panels on yet. But that will be fun.
Okay, yeah. So we plan to complete the solar project. Like we said, right now we've been focused in Florida, and we've been pole to pole, so it doesn't make much sense to do the solar now. So we're going to wait until we actually need it and get the best of the best, whatever technology is then. There's a question about our lithium-ion battery pack.
Battery's working great.
The battery continues to work great. You can read our most current assessment of it at technomadia.com/lithium. On the blog, there was a 1-year wrap-up post that Chris did with our performance at the time. Nothing has changed since then. Like I said, we've been on the pole since then, so we haven't really had to put it to its paces.
Recommendation for special supplies. I'm not sure what kind of special supplies that's referring to.
If you're looking for gear, we do have a links page on our blog. If you go to the links, if you look for our mobile gear, you can see all of our technology, our toys, our kitchen gear and household stuff. We have links to everything that we consider special there.
Special supplies, like an induction cooktop we consider essential, but that might not be essential for everybody. But.
So you can go read about everything that we consider to be our special gear there. I don't know about supplies.
Campgrounds we stay at, we mentioned a lot of them. The latest is the one that you should never go to at Cedar Key. It's an absolute dump and horrible. Sunset Isle and Loki Hideaway in Cedar Key are the worst campgrounds ever. Stay away from them.
The sunsets are particularly awful.
Oh, God, the sunsets, it's like, clouds of black smoke everywhere. And never go to Cedar Key. That's the most important thing. And
campgrounds, we regularly mention them in our travel logs. So if you go back and read our travel logs, we usually mention after we leave them where we stayed at. And if you go to RV Park, there's also a link on the blog. I think it's under our tales to all of our campground reviews that we keep on RV parking. So you can go read everything there.
There's a question about Miss Kiki.
Kiki, how are you doing?
You grab her. She needs to make her get some video time. People want to see her. She was napping.
Here's Kiki.
She's been fighting infestation.
Yes, a flea infestation, so it's that time of year
Florida,
in Florida.
Yes, we're fighting them. Discount solar and quartzite, I've actually heard good things about them too. 200 watts of solar enough for boondocking? Depends how you optimize your usage. Our Oliver, we had just 200 watts on it, and we could go, I think we actually sometimes went literally months without having to run a generator, living basically primarily off of solar. So if you are efficient enough, 200 watts can be great. On our bus, I think we're going to want at least 600 to 800 watts to keep up with our usual usage here.
Because it really depends upon what you're doing. Like our fridge is all electric, so we are completely propane free in the bus. So we have a lot of electrics, and we have 30-inch computer monitors and things like that to keep running. So we'll be going for more solar when we do it. Yes, Kiki goes outside. She is harnessed and leash trained, so we just attach her outside. She does not free roam. And we started her as a kitten, so that made it really easy for her.
Thanks for being here, Pace.
Thank you, Pace and Kylie, for joining in, and thank you for sharing your experience.
Check the link to the blog. Anybody, they learned many, many awesome, valuable lessons, and that's like the ultimate win of this lifestyle. They didn't fail in any fashion at all because this lifestyle's all about flexibility. So score, awesome. Mm-hmm. They're going to move on to the next thing, and if you know somebody who wants a fifth wheel, go buy theirs.
Okay, another battery question. Any plans in the future to add more amp hours? Yes, we do plan to, when we do the solar, potentially to get 1,000 to 1,200 amp hours in lithium. We do plan to double, at least double.
We would like to have enough battery capacity to run the bedroom air conditioner full blast all night long without needing a generator. So that would give us a lot of nice boondocking flexibility. If we can be in a Walmart in a really hot environment and still camp the night and not have to worry about it. Yes. So this chat has been fabulous. Thank you guys all. And this will be going online as an archive at some point soon.
Yes, we'll mark Ustream to upload it to our YouTube channel where you can view this as an archive later. So we're going to go ahead and wrap this up. Thank you for joining us, and see you online on Facebook or